Hey everyone, Cycrayasin here, and in this lesson I wanted to talk about shapes, or as Zia Teptera calls them, chapes, and specifically how to use them in character design, but I don't know, maybe this applies to a lot more than that as well. So, there's a few basic shapes, three really. There's a circle, and a square, or rectangle, and a triangle. And they each have their own qualities. So circles, like emotional things that they get across. Circles, you tend to feel they are somewhat, okay, I'm going to say feminine, but don't be offended that I'm using feminine and masculine. It's an idea. Don't think of it like, well, I'm a girl and I like squares, so it's not. That doesn't make me feminine. But anyway, they're more feminine and feminine, soft, cute, non-threatening. I'll just put nice. Like friendly, right? Circles, they don't have harsh edges, so you feel more safe around them. And they're just easy shapes. Where squares, they're more masculine and they're more tough. They look tough, rigid, structural, and what else? Solid. These all mean the same things. Dependable, I guess. Like, you could believe in a shape like this. Very strong. Yeah, strong. Strong and tough are the same things. Alright, so triangles. Triangles, I found there's two types. So like, if you say circles are more feminine and squares, rectangles are more masculine, well, this type of triangle I feel is more feminine, and this is because spelling. This is because I find that it's like, you find it in the female body a lot, where, let's say I have a figure here, right? And then you see these type of shapes. It's very, very feminine shapes, whereas this type of triangle seems a lot more masculine. Masculine, and you see it, right? Like, look at this. This is a more manly shape already, right? So, and triangles tend to be, just get rid of this, they tend to be sharp, maybe dangerous. I think they're really cool, but that's because I'm biased, because I love triangles, and especially the masculine triangles. Don't think about that too much. It doesn't mean much, but I like, they're sharp, they're fast. I don't know what else, because when I say fast, it's like things like aerodynamics, right? You look at the triangle and it's like, yeah, especially when you combine certain shapes, but yeah, I guess we can talk about that right now. So let's say you combine a round with a triangle, then you can get shapes like this, and that to me is like a super fast shape. You see it in things like in a scythe, you might see that shape, or like a bird's beak, or you might see this shape in like, no, that's a terrible car, but plane, I guess. Plane? Don't worry about it. But you see these fast shapes, claws, things like that, you know? It seems fast, it seems I'll put cool, but that's my opinion, so I'll put in brackets opinion. Whereas these can be cool to certain people, and these can be cool to certain people. So I'll put cool for all of them, because different people have different tastes. So I think what shapes you like sort of tells a bit about yourself as well, and what your preferences are. For instance, going back to the thing of cars, there's like cars that are more blocky like this, and they're sort of rugged, and people that like that, they tend to like things that are more tough and strong. It's the same for a character. Like you want a tough character. Well, squares are a good way to go. You get like tank characters, right? So this is why it's useful, because if you know what this gives a feeling of, then you can use it for things like character design. So already looking at this character, it's like, well, he looks pretty sturdy. He looks pretty dependable. Maybe he's stupid, I don't know, but he looks dependable. It looks like, okay, he's not going to be easily knocked over. Whereas if you had a character and they're really big, but they're all based on circles, it still can be like, yeah, he's a big character, but it's a little more gentle. Like, oh, he's not going to hurt me. Look at him, he's circles. He's nice. Or, but then if you have a, triangle character, it's like, uh-oh. Yeah. He's probably, he's probably a bit meaner. And these are just things that people unconsciously will make assumptions. And not everybody, I'm not saying everyone's going to look at a triangle guy and be like, that guy's evil, but they do this a lot in animation to separate good characters and bad characters. Or you could use it as a way to fool somebody. So for instance, you could have someone that's really based on triangles, and you want people to think, well, this character can't be trusted. They're all triangular. And then you could have him actually be like a good character, And then you can say like, well, I'm so smart. I fooled my audience. They all thought this was a bad guy. But we all know he's got a heart of gold, and so he ended up dying because gold isn't very good at pumping blood. But sorry. All right. So shapes. So let's talk about combining shapes. So I already talked about the circle triangle thing, which I think is a really good combination, because you get the cool factor of the triangle. But one of the things that circles have that some of the others lack is they have this voluminous feeling. It's really easy to build things out of circles. So, this is... And like this shape, this beanbaggy shape, this is a very round shape, It's something that it's used a lot in animation. And it's very circular. And you'll notice in animation things like this too, the hands just get reduced to circles. And there's a lot of circles and cylinders, because these type of shapes are really easy to see in 3 dimensions. Squares are the same. They're also very structural. So it's like, well, this exists in space, and it is very solid. But the problem with squares that circles don't have is, with circles, you are more free and flowy. Like, it feels like there's more movement in this than in this. This tends to stiffen up. And that's why, like, there's a lot of people who study Bridgman for anatomy, and it's good, and I like it a lot as a thing to study, but you do see the characters can get more stiff sometimes when you build off squares and things, but it's still very structural. But triangles are really difficult for this because, you know, you've got 3 points. It's good for getting basic shapes, but it's hard to build structure. Like, what is this, you know? What is the depth in this? I could make it a bit more blocky and combine those two, and it's like, okay, so that's the depth. Or I could make it a bit more rounded. But yeah, working with triangles is difficult, and so with my style, I really use a ton of triangles and pointy things. But in the beginning, it tends to start like this. I work with circles, and when I'm getting more structural, I start working more with, you know, when it's like a definite side plane. Then I'll think more in terms of blocks. Like, okay, so this is a side plane, and this is a side plane, and then this is an underplane, and all this is just a basic guide. So when you have that, and that's all good, then you can, you know, build on top of it, and you can go crazy with pointiness, and it's all built on a circular foundation. So this is why I think circles are really good, because you can be sharp and things after the fact, but circles give you the structure. Yeah, so combining shapes. So this shape is really fast. Anything like this, you know, you've got like a curve with points. It's really fast. You can combine like circles and squares, and what you get is really appealing shapes because they have flow to them, but they also have structure. So a shape like this, you can tell, like, okay, it's got structure, but it's also got a flow to it, and it's because, you know, it's got the rounded edges. It feels like, yeah, it's still organic, and it's cool for character designs. And I think, yeah, I think Bob Meatbag, he uses these a lot, and I call them the blocky beans. He uses blocky beans because it's like a bean shape, which is a very, again, it's a really useful shape. I mean, with this bean, just this shape, you can build so many things. Like, this could be a torso. It's like, okay, yay, I'm alive. But it also could be a face. And could be a lot of things. Like, you can just build so much with these shapes. So, I mean, this is most of what I wanted to cover, is just to bring out that idea that shapes are important and they have certain feelings to them. So when you're designing your characters, to think about the shapes. Now, something that's good to do is to mix shapes, not like what I was talking about where you combine the shapes, but like, let's say you have a circle head, and then you have a rectangle body, and then maybe a round torso, and then it gets back to rectangular, and you've got the legs and things. This is okay, but when you start adding too many shapes, like, notice I'm just doing circles and squares here. That's okay. But if I started, you know, adding triangles here and triangles here, it can get really confusing really fast. It can start to feel convoluted. So if you like simpler styles, I usually wouldn't mix more than two main shapes, dominant shapes. It doesn't mean you wouldn't have any triangular areas. It's just you wouldn't have it as a dominant shape, right? So same with when you're doing like a face. Let's say I had a character And their face was basically a triangle. It's like, okay, that's cool, that's appealing. And let's say their face is within this, so this is the shape of their hair. And this is a very useful tip in character design. It's when you start to simplify characters like this, where let's say this is a girl, and that's basically her hair, and so we got the face. So the thing with this is, with this character, because it's based on this very simple triangle shape, even from far, even if, let's just put in her body, let's say it's very triangular as well. Let's say it was just a silhouette and you don't really even see the character and it's really far away, you still would know, like, oh, this is that character, right? Let's say she had a friend who was like a circly dude, and you'd know, oh, okay, so that's her friend because he's the circly dude. And often something really fun to do, that I like to do anyway, is have very basic silhouettes. So the silhouette is not complicated, it's very easy. But then inside you can go crazy, you can do all sorts of things. And it creates like good design. And if you've seen my paintings or drawings, I do this a ton, where I'll take like a character and the silhouette on the outside is actually really quite simple. See, it's just like this, which I consider a rectangle. Like, you can bend your shapes as well. When I say, you know, this is rectangular, it doesn't mean it's this, like necessarily it has to be this. It could be like that, I still consider rectangular. If you say it's a triangle, it could still be like something like that. It's a very triangular shape, even though it's got curve in it. But anyway, so yeah, so I might do something like this, and then I could break this hair into many strands and add a bunch of little details and make the side of that face a little more defined. But you can see how, well, I hope this comes across, how clear this is, you know? Like, as a design, it's really, to me anyway, I feel it's strong. It's very clear. It's like, yeah, I see this, and if this person was really far away, and I just see that basic hair, the body's whatever, because it's not drawn here, but let's say that's a shape, it's like, oh, this is not this person, it's this person. Yay. So, I don't know. If you have questions about shapes, just leave them in the comments, and maybe I'll do another video explaining more, because I don't really know, you know, what else to talk about. But I hope it helped, and thanks for watching.